We are back on the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast to talk now about another contending team leaving the 49ers in the first segment, now talking about the Detroit Lions and two pieces of their roster that I wanted to bring up here. I've seen a lot of news and a lot of just reports hyping up Jahmyr Gibbs, their second-year running back, and Jameson Williams, again, another former first-round selection by the Detroit Lions. He's entering his third year now. And it seems like a lot of stock is being placed into these two guys that could potentially be the catalyst to making this Detroit Lions team even better than they were last year, where they made it to the NFC conference game. Now, if they're trying to get the best out of these two guys, it seems like that could really put them over the edge, according to all the hype and news I've seen about these two guys recently. And talking about them, it's odd that I didn't know this fact that both of them, both Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams, were oddly enough drafted with the 12th overall pick in 2022 for Jameson Williams and in 2023 for Jahmyr Gibbs. So very weird that both of them were drafted with the exact same pick in back-to-back drafts, but now I guess it's not too weird because both of them are primed for breakout seasons, it seems like. The reports from the Detroit Lions are coming out and saying maybe it's something about the 12th pick. I'd have to go back and check who else were notable 12th overall picks, but maybe there's something about the 12th pick that produces guys like this. And it's funny also because selecting Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams, maybe more so with Jahmyr Gibbs, the Detroit Lions got a lot of stick for drafting a running back that high, especially it being Jahmyr Gibbs, just because with the market of how running backs are now, thinking of even drafting a running back at 12 that high is crazy nowadays. No team would really ever consider it unless you're even talking about a Saquon or a Christian McCaffrey sort of talent. Maybe even the answer at that point would even still be a maybe of drafting them that high. But the Lions went ahead and did it, and Jahmyr Gibbs definitely impressed a lot of people as a rookie last year. Just to show you guys some of his stats that I have here to, show you guys and provide you, just to give you an idea of how well he performed. There you go and see it on your screen. In 2023, he recorded 1,261 yards from scrimmage, 11 touchdowns, and 5.2 yards per carry, which on paper, on just, seeing it like that, it might not seem like eye-popping numbers, generational type of numbers, but the way that I think he fits into this offense, and if he could provide, those are the numbers he provided as a rookie, complementing David Montgomery. Now, thinking of it in year two, everybody's thinking of the possibility of what kind of monster Jahmyr Gibbs could be if he produced this in his first year, now with the experience, now with better training, and kind of knowing what an NFL season is like. And not only that, but knowing what it is like to play into January, to the latest stage of the season other than the Super Bowl. I think that would certainly help him out tremendously now heading into his second year, and people are already, salivating over what this guy could be in his second year. Talking about those yards per carry, firstly here, 5.2 is extremely high. You're in the range of some of the best runners in the NFL in that category. He was only behind Christian McCaffrey and Jaylen Warren for yards per carry. Both of them had about 5.4, 5.3. And now, not only is Jahmyr Gibbs a great runner, obviously, with his outside speed, zone speed that he brings to the Lions, very nicely complementing David Montgomery, but also his running in between the tackles, in between tight spaces, in between the line, certainly improved a lot as the season went on. And I think it was the game against the Rams or the Jaguars. I might be completely messing up whatever team that was, but there was a game in where he really broke out and was almost like his breakout game, and where you really saw the whole package with Jahmyr Gibbs, the running ability, the pass catching, everything in that game. He took over that game completely, and that was sort of his stamp of approval to show everybody that he's not only just this rookie that everybody, really had no hopes for, that he is a major piece to this offense. And again, only as a rookie. And now, heading into his second year, there's already talks of their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, wanting to maximize his talent and his potential even more. Not only as a running back, but potentially maybe lining him up in the slot and really taking advantage of his route running ability as a receiver, which is tremendous for Jahmyr Gibbs if he could bring that to the table someday, put it on his resume, and, get himself maybe a larger contract because of that. That's only to Jahmyr Gibbs' benefit and also to the Lions if they're able to take advantage of this with maybe the lack of wide receiver talent just at the start here. Lining up Jahmyr Gibbs as a wide receiver, having still David Montgomery in the backfield will certainly be impressive to use that as a weapon in 2024. And I think now, just more so than ever, I think now the acknowledgement of Jahmyr Gibbs, realizing that he's not only a complementary piece to David Montgomery to only spot him a few plays when David Montgomery gets tired, but also now to really look at Jahmyr Gibbs as a playmaker, as a go-to guy for this team in the passing game, out of the backfield, running it, and everything like that. He can almost do everything very well according to all this hype that he's getting, and I'm very excited to see it. I was one of those people that was skeptical of this pick, but as I watched the Lions closer and closer towards the postseason and things like that, he really is a guy that is a nightmare to game plan against. He's super fast. He's strong for being maybe a fragile, more agile running back. He can get in there and put his face mask into blockers, pick up protections and pass blocking situations like that. He can almost do it all. And again, he's so young. It is something to look forward to, and I'm buying into the hype a little bit now. I'm hyping up Jahmyr Gibbs a bit here now, but I truly believe that Jahmyr could take that next step. And on top of that, then you have a guy like Jameson Williams, and maybe not so well known just yet compared to Jahmyr Gibbs, just because he had to deal with a little bit more adversity as he started his NFL career. You look back to his rookie year, he only played 6 games, recovering from an ACL injury that he suffered in college, so already a rough start. But then in last season, he missed the first month because of a gambling suspension. So on the field and off the field, pretty rough starts for Jameson Williams. But more so last year, you kind of saw what he could be eventually if he figured everything out and figured out how to maneuver your way through the NFL as a professional and as a true, playmaker for this team. You saw the deep ball threat that he provided, the quick speed that he had. The route running was on display as well last year, but again, he was still secondary or a third option to the Detroit Lions behind, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you had Sam Laporta that just busted onto the scene out of nowhere. So now I think a lot more stock is being invested in Jameson Williams now, not only because Josh Reynolds moved on to the Broncos, but because this guy certainly shows flashes of the enormous talent that he could bring to this Lions team. And he was a first-round pick. The success that he had at Alabama as well, screams for him to be more productive for this Lions team. And offensive coordinator Ben Johnson also basically said, short and simple, he said, I haven't seen anything he can't do. So it's been fun, incorporating him into the offense more, maybe drawing up some plays specifically for him. If these two guys, get over that, hurdle of trying to really break out this year, potentially in 2024, then you get to the question, the overall idea of this Lions roster and the weapons they have at their disposal. Their disposal, you have guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams, if he takes that next step, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, their offensive line, which I think is the best in the NFL. Those are a lot of guys that the Lions can really just pick and choose, decide who's going to take over that game. And they really hit on every level of offense with 2 running backs, one of the best already tight ends in the NFL, one of the best receivers in the NFL, up and coming. And again, that offensive line, it's just mean. Their offensive line really just bullies you, and you saw it in the game against the 49ers. They were destroying them up front. The running game was absolutely insane in the first half, and then they went away from it, and they ended up losing that game. But that was sort of the epitome of this offensive line of what they can be to some of the best teams in the NFL. And talking about some of the best teams, I think right now, before any football has been played, just on paper, the Lions are certainly up there with the Eagles and I think the 49ers as the top 3 best, offensive weapon groups that there is in the NFL currently. Maybe the Chiefs, you can say, are up there as the best team because they have the best player in the NFL in Patrick Mahomes. But in terms of weapons and who you have on your roster, I think really the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Lions now stand out. And more so, it is so close right now between all three of them. But if we get a season like Jameson Williams doesn't have to put up like 1,200 yards or anything like that and 10 touchdowns. If he records like 800, from anywhere from 700 to 900 yards, anywhere from that range, maybe contribute with 5 or 6 touchdowns or something like that, and just improves and becomes a threat that other teams need to game plan for. And also with Jahmyr Gibbs, it's hard to exceed the kind of rookie season that he had, but if he does exceed it, he's going to be looked at as one of the best running backs, if not, arguably the best young running back in the NFL, with Breece Hall in there as well. You're going to have two guys that really complement this offense so much more. The Lions are screaming for somebody to kind of help out Amon-Ra St. Brown and take away some of the coverage that slides over to his side. If you have Jameson Williams with his speed, his route running ability, then you have Sam Laporta over the middle, and Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield, the opposing defense gets very thin. They're stretched out too many different places to where you can really try to create a game plan to stop all of those guys. It's going to be extremely hard to do so. And the thing I love the most about this team, and I'll end this segment with this, is that the offensive line is one thing, but also the relentless style that they can have with both running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs and everything he's able to do out of the backfield, and then David Montgomery, who will just punish you in the hole, has sneaky good speed on the outsides of the offensive line. Having both of those guys and how they complement each other could just really keep opposing offenses with how high-powered they are on the sideline. You control the tempo of everything. And I think a lot of people forget last year that the Lions marched into Arrowhead in the first week of the season and beat the Chiefs at home pretty convincingly. Their defense stepped up, and their defense is one area that I would point as a weakness potentially compared to the other two teams. But overall on offense, if we're just talking offense to offense and matching the Chiefs point for point, I think the Lions, if they have these two guys step up, can be the team in the NFC to potentially stop the Chiefs from three-peating, making history, becoming the first team to three-peat in NFL history. So that's how I'm feeling about the Detroit Lions. That's how it seems like a lot of people are feeling in regards to Jameson Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs really being those two X factors that could get the Lions over the finish line here. They made it to the NFC Championship game last year, so that's already a high bar to meet, but they have all the pieces in place, so I think they're very capable of doing it. The Eagles are going to have something to say about it. Certainly the 49ers, but we'll see how the Brandon Ayuk situation sort of plays itself out. But the NFC is an exciting conference. It's definitely more offensive based, where I think the AFC is a little bit more grueling and defensive based, but a lot of good football should be played in each conference. It should be something to watch in 2024, but we'll leave that there. We'll leave that to when the season actually starts. But now we're going to talk some more about the offseason and joint practices officially starting this week. We've had already some on Sunday, some on Monday, and some starting up today, with a few more starting up Thursday as well. There's already a lot of fights breaking out. We're going to go into that, what happened and how that all, sort of played itself out. And a potential scenario, could joint practices maybe be an alternative option to the preseason games, now going into an area where the NFL is trying to incorporate more regular season games? Could they use joint practices as a way to get rid of some of the preseason games? We're going to answer that question when we return. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.
Look